Hello, this is Rachel from 4 by Felines. Thank you for joining me today as I go through how to make these very simple and, in my opinion, very cute little tuck-in writing cards for junk journals. So, for example, they could go in a corner tuck like that. They could go in a tuck like that. They could go in a tuck like that, or be popped in somewhere like there. So lots and lots of options for these. They use up scraps and they use up, I have so many fussy cuts, so many fussy cuts. Very quick, very easy to do. So you will need a fussy cut image. You will need a piece of text. Now where I've got a lot of these pieces of text is from a book on flowers which had written descriptions on. So if you can't find scripted text, you could just use printed text. If you've got a stamp, a silicone or rubber stamp that does text, you could use that instead. You need a piece of paper for the top of the tuck-in, and you need a piece of card for a writing space. You need a needle and a thread. You need scissors and glue. Okay, step 1, you need to stick. Now I've already cut these to size, but if you had, before you do this, you will need to cut things to size. So the first thing to do after you've cut things to size, because I didn't think you'd really care to watch me doing all the sticking. That's a list of all you'll need in case you would like to take a screen clipping of that. I think I'm just about to run out of my glue stick. Oh, of course I am. Hopefully I'll have enough for this tutorial. And you only want to glue down half. So I folded it like that. With these two, I folded it up and over. And why you fold it there is to cover up the stitching. If you don't mind the stitching, then you don't need to do that back piece. But that's another reason why you don't stick it down just yet, because you need to stick it down after you've done the sewing. Okay, so part 1 done, you've stuck down the top. Next thing to stick down is the writing space, and as you can see from here, you don't stick it down direct in the center. The reason being that once you have your fussy cut there, you need to have enough space to work around it, and for that, so I think I'm going to put my fussy cut up in that corner. So I'll quickly glue this. And when you glue down, you want to make sure you've got enough of a border for the stitches. Now, if you don't like using needle and thread, you don't like using stitches, you don't have to do this. If you've got a sewing machine, you could always sew round it that way. I'm really in a phase at the moment where I'm loving using needle and thread. I got a ton of these embroidery threads, some from charity shops, some after my lovely mum-in-law passed away, and I want to be using them rather than having them sit in a cupboard doing nothing. I want to be using them. So you've stuck down your text. Now you need to stick down your fussy cut. So to recap, what we've done is we've stuck part of that down, we've stuck down the text, we've stuck down the fussy cut. Now the next step is to do the stitching. And what I tend to do, because I don't know about you, but when I'm stitching, if I'm stitching with paper, if I try doing it as I'm stitching, sometimes I can really bend, damage and warp the paper. So what I like to do is put my holes in before I then sew. And this is why, if you ever get the chance to have a little styrofoam piece of block like this and you're going to do sewing, definitely try and get one of these. Loads of people have them knocking around whenever they buy anything new, so a styrofoam block is great. And so I'm going to start pushing the holes and to make sure that I have the right number of holes, what I tend to do is I tend to start with 1, and then after that I say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. And I say yes, no, so that I know where I am, and so that I know if it ends on a yes, that's when the thread ends, and there won't be a spare hole anywhere. So I've done yes, no, 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 yes. Oh. Okay, and then I will just start with the sewing. So I don't tend to knot the end because that just adds more bulk, but I make sure that I don't then pull it through as I'm doing my other stitches, because I will I'll probably put a little bit of tape down to hold that down before I stick the last piece. And you don't have to do a running stitch like this. You can do crosses, you can do zigzags, you can do whatever fancy pants stuff you like. I just really like the look of a very simple running stitch. I tend to pick a colour that contributes, that's not the word, complements the fussy cut that I've used. So with this I'm using quite a bright yellow. With this one I used a soft pink for the hedgehog to pick out his ears and his feet. Thank you very much, Rosie, for that hedgehog. And with that one I used a yellow, and with this one, with this moth, I used a red. And this is a really nice project to do in front of the TV or listening to an audiobook, something like that. It's a very easy sewing project which you could put together in a Tupperware box and take with you. So if you're waiting in a car for children to come out of school or for an appointment somewhere, definitely something you could do while you're there. And it's very simple. And as I said, I do like to punch the holes because you're probably hearing that as I'm pulling, there is a bit of pull on the paper and the card. And if I was just poking holes, I find that sometimes that just damages the card. So this I have found works far better. And also, if you're sat somewhere in a car park or in a waiting room or something, it's much easier to have it all there, holes punched, ready. Okay, we're nearly done with this very, very simple tutorial. So cut that thread. I've taken a little bit of tape and I'm going to trim that a little bit more. That a little bit more. So I've taken that tape and I've stuck those down, and that's what that looks like. And now I'm going to glue the back of that with literally practically down to the end of this, but it has lasted well to finish this off. There you go. So that is that done, and then you've got a really, really cute little place that you can do writing. You can tuck this in, you could decorate the back if you wanted, so you could use washi tape if you didn't like the outline. And again, if you like the idea of having the stitches there, you don't even have to fold the piece over. But I just find these are really, really pretty, and while I think about that, I'm going to pop that in here and use that in my current journal. This is Edwina, the current journal. If you'd like to see a flip through of her, I've also got that on my channel. So thank you very much for joining me for going through this tutorial. I have a number of other tutorials from the 5 to 15 minute mark, a lot of them to do with using up scraps and making things for junk journals. Thank you again for joining me. I hope the rest of your day is full of crafting goodness. Okay, bye.